Are you ready to take a bite out of the competition? Are you looking for ideas to make your business better? Welcome to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet,
sponsored by Apple Capital Group.
At the core of every successful business, you'll find people making a difference. And with each episode of the Core Business Show, we talk with those people, examine those ideas, and explore the strategies that make them special. Now, the host of the Core Business Show, Tim Jacquet.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Core Business Show. I'm Tim Jacquet, your host. Today we're going to talk about virtual cloud-based phone systems with RingCentral. Our special guest is Vitual. We're going to talk about phone systems and the virtual phone system and cloud-based systems. So if you'd like to join the conversation, just call in at 347-324-3460, 347-324-3460, or you can pose a question in the chat room, of course, or you can email us at info@thecorebusinessshow.com. If you do have a question, I know a lot of people are listening to the show, just go ahead and press that number 1, and that indicates that you have a question. Welcome to the program, Vitual.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me, and thanks for having RingCentral.
Thank you. I think this is a wonderful topic because it will save small businesses a lot of money. And the big guys have, they have Cisco systems and so forth, and they pay an arm and a leg for it. But I think this is a very good solution for small businesses, and I just had to bring it to the marketplace. And I guess to begin with, tell us about yourself and how did you get with RingCentral?
Sure. My name is Vitual, as you had already mentioned, and I am the Director of Social Strategy here at RingCentral. I've been here for a little over 6 months, and I came here because this is a really fast-growing company. We're doing some innovative things with cloud-based communications for businesses. And, we're growing at a fast pace. There's a lot of opportunity here and growth, and it's been a really great ride so far.
Wow. Tell us about, RingCentral themselves, how long they've been in business and how did they get started, if you can share with us, and then, we can convert to cloud-based systems.
Sure. So we were founded in 2003 by our CEO, Vlad Shmuni. He is a brilliant engineer and product person in general and has came up with this idea of cloud business communications. The impetus for it was, so first of all, let me take a step back and explain what it is that we do.
Sure.
We're cloud phone systems for businesses. And I want to actually clarify that it's not just good for small businesses, but we're seeing a trend among big business customers coming to us. And
Wow.
It's not just because, it's because what we're doing is we're replacing traditional PBX features and functions and services in general with the same functionality and feature set that's cloud-based. And you had already mentioned that traditional PBX systems are quite expensive, which is where all the big companies have gone. But there's also the problem of PBX systems being really inflexible, and you can't provision, for instance, another office, another user. You can't use it easily on your mobile devices. You can't provision home lines, etc. So there's a lot of business drivers that can't be accomplished with a traditional PBX system. So, along comes the cloud, and because we're in the cloud, there are a lot of things that we can do on the fly. It doesn't require, high, deeply technical IT expertise. So we've taken advantage of that market opportunity, and now we're, done a really good job with among small, medium-sized businesses, and we continue to service many of them. But as I mentioned, we're actually seeing some traction, a lot of traction among bigger businesses. And currently, we're about 300,000 businesses. We have 300,000 business customers, and as I mentioned, this market is we're just tapping, the small portion of the market that is actually really large, $35 billion market in the U.S. alone.
Wow. Tell us how this whole process actually works with a cloud-based system.
Sure. So, as I mentioned, there are a lot of functions that we probably take for granted, but actually are very complex when it comes to traditional business communications, as I mentioned. So, you have a business, you're setting up call forwarding lines, you're setting up, caller ID, you're setting up, call transfers, auto receptionists, all those things that we take for granted as a business or as a customer when we call businesses. Well, in the past with PBX systems, and actually still today with PBX systems, you have to get an IT person in, he or she has to go to the actual PBX switch and, make a couple of configuration changes, and it's not an easy process, right? And it doesn't also account for the fact that in this day and age, there are some major megatrends that are happening in the mobile market, with smartphones and growth in the cloud. And all those megatrends aren't easily met by the traditional PBX systems, right? So we want to be able to use our phone systems, our business phone communications on our smartphones, on our iPads. We want to be able to add a new employee, with a simple going into the system interface and just provisioning that employee with a new line and departmental rules and all that sort of stuff. Well, all of that can be done with a person who isn't necessarily in IT through a web interface, through RingCentral's web interface, as opposed to, working with a physical PBX system and having to go in there with a highly competent, highly technical engineer to provision the simplest communications tasks. So, in a nutshell, the reason why cloud-based business communications is growing is because it's meeting the demands of these megatrends in mobile. And so we are, people choose us because it's instant, we're mobile, we're scalable, and best of all, we're affordable.
Wow. If you talk about the whole process of being affordable, you're spending thousands of dollars for a business to set up a phone system, but the cloud-based system goes a little step further, but it's a lot cheaper. But, I mean, you can also link, if I have an office in Florida and I'm in Texas, be all part of one network, and it can be as simple as plugging a phone into I forgot your box, your switch box or your hub box, and you're up and running, right?
You're absolutely right, Tim, and that's a very good point you make, is that we have many business customers who have multiple offices throughout the world even. And what our system does is, you're absolutely right, it aggregates all those offices into one virtual one. And so when you're a customer or you're an outsider calling in or, interacting with this business, it looks like this business is at one local location. I mean, if you can configure it that way, right? Caller, looks like your sales department is on the East Coast, your marketing department's on the West Coast, and your contact center is somewhere in Texas. Well, you can provision this all through a web interface and have the same area code going to all of those locations. So you have what the concept of a local number, and somebody calling in can say, oh, press 1 for marketing, 2 for sales, 3 for the contact center, and it's through one line, and it gets routed, efficiently to the correct department. And it's all through our system.
And it's all through your system that's real easy. And I heard of RingCentral because they were a company I was working for. They were looking for a solution because they were allowing workers to work from home. And this is the way they can tie it in, allow them to work from home. All they do is send them a phone, and they were downsizing their office space to save money. They have so many locations. Yep. Okay, you go home. Since you're in the field anyway as an account rep, and you need to deal with the vendors. And however, what was so good about it that, we had this Cisco phone that we can use, and we can set up at home, and also you can provision it to not only that phone, but it can go to your cell phone at the same time, so you're never disconnected from your line.
That's exactly it, Tim. That's exactly it. And in fact, I just actually interviewed two professionals running, medium businesses. One is a physician, one is an attorney, and the physician actually, he practices what's called highly personalized healthcare. So it's kind of like old school medicine where you make house visits and such. And he's also an engineer by training. So he has an MD and, a master's of science in engineering. And so it's very technical. And so when he was evaluating these different systems, he realized that, he's going to be out in the field a lot, at hospitals, at patients' homes, in his office. And he wants patients to be able to get a hold of him at one phone number, or he actually has to return calls, and he wants that same number, same area code coming from, quote unquote, his office, right? So he's using his office phone, but he's making those calls and accepting those calls on his iPhone through the RingCentral app, and it's all one number. It's all his business number. And the attorney is the same way. You have an attorney customer who owns a practice, and a while ago he was hit pretty hard by the downturn in the economy in 2007, 2008, and it forced him to shut down his office. But then over time, he's been able to build up his practice again. And when he did, he decided to build only a virtual office. So he has receptionists, he has other partners in the firm. They're all distributed. There's no one location. And yet, from a customer perspective, it's one communication system.
Wow. And we went through, ironically, what really made me a believer in RingCentral. We opened an office in Houston, and Houston had a hurricane about 3 years ago. I think it's 2008. Well, the hurricane came through, knocked the power out of the whole building, and the city, it took a month to recover all the power in the city. So we just opened this office right after Labor Day, and the storm came at the end of the week and shut everything down. And we did have an office there. Ironically, we had to move people to spend the cost of moving some people to hotels in Dallas. And we actually decided to stay in Dallas because then we don't have to deal with the issue of the coastal areas with the storms. They can just go, across the whole area and never be affected. There's someone always there to be able to answer a phone. So it is a proven fact. It really worked for us because our largest accounts were in Houston, and Florida's always been affected because we were right there in Jacksonville, and we thought we were escaping one incident to come to another. And after almost 30 years, they decided to have a hurricane there, and it really affected them. So what they did is move everything to Dallas because Dallas only gets heat.
Right.
It may be an ice storm maybe one day of the year, and we can divert phones to Denver or something. But Denver has its own issues as well with snowstorms. But also tell us about, you have your office phones, and they have a mobile. Then you can also do a fax. You also have a neat product about an app that, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't used it yet but a few times, but I haven't figured out how it works. But you guys have an app that you can put on your phone, and you're not using your minutes?
Yes. If you are connected to Wi-Fi, right, and then you connect through the RingCentral app, then you can, for instance, make free international voice over IP calls, and you're not using your minutes. That's 100% correct. So we have an app that is for the iPad, so, iOS devices, iPad, iPhone, iPod Touch, and we also have an app for the Android platform as well as the BlackBerry. And the use case that you described, I just want to go back to that, is a really fascinating use case. I'd love to hear more about that. But it certainly is one of the use cases that we, had sort of anticipated through customer feedback. And so in a crunch, you can just go on to the web and say, all right, I want, as a business owner, I want to reroute all these calls that were going to, the affected area. And I want it to go to, XYZ employees that are holed up in this hotel, or our office, out, in another area of the country that isn't affected by weather, right? So, you can think of other scenarios, like, let's say you're a small business and your VP is supposed to be taking all these calls to make the sales numbers, right? But then, and you're the CEO, and unfortunately, you're on vacation, and the VP of sales has to have his appendix out. So what do? You have all of his calls routed to your cell phone or your iPad, and it's actually the same number. Say it's 1-800-SALES. You can have that exact number routed to your cell phone, and nobody who's calling that number would know better. And now you're covering for your VP of sales. So same scenario as you brought up.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually reached out to you guys, and you guys didn't pay us for this. I'm just like the product. So I'm just going to put that out there. You guys not paying us for anything. We actually sought you out in order to kind of share it with the business community. So
thank you so much.
Leave it at that. But just the testimony, we did have, it was just ironic we had that issue, and that kind of really saved us when we had the hurricane. 5 days later, after moving to an office. Anyway, we got out of the lease because the office building, it took 3 months to 4 months to get back in operation, and we just moved from our office from Houston to Dallas, and it kind of worked out better. But There was no power, no nothing, and nothing
Wow.
was anticipated for a month. And even when they got power, because it was affected so much, I mean, they still have to deal with cleanup and everything else. It's just a bad scenario. But I know I've used it for a few times with conventions about plug and play and hotels. I just brought a phone, plugged it in, and I'm in business. And that's how it worked out with us. And so it's a proven fact. Kind of
I
tell
love
us
it. Well,
about.
I'd love to write a feature story about this.
Sure.
That's
No,
a
no problem.
great story.
Tell us about with Ring Central about some of the other products that you offer.
Sure. So our product suite is essentially three things. It's fax, so you can send, you can just sign up with us to do fax communication, and that's obviously over the internet. And then we have what's called the professional product suite, which gives you, the virtual phone system, right, as well as any, supports any of your mobile phones as long as they're iOS and Android and so on and so forth. And then we have the premier product suite, which is called Ring Central Office, and it's a complete phone system. So now imagine like you're running an enterprise and you need the complete communication from fax to mobile to desk phones, with all the enterprise suite features, right? So then you've got that desk and mobile phones in multiple locations. And so it starts out, somewhat simple, and then you've got more of like the professionals, more like an entrepreneur doing a 2-3 person startup perhaps, and then our office suite is where we're seeing lots of traction in the medium to even bigger businesses.
Okay. I'm going to say there's any downsides. I mean, you really have to have an internet connection in order to make this system work. That's the only biggest thing. It won't function without that internet connection.
That's correct. That's what the cloud is, right? So it's all the function up in the internet.
So we just wanted to be specific on that. When it comes to your internet connection, do you need to have a certain bandwidth in order to make the phone effective?
I think that, upload, download speeds that are typical for 802.11 ABCG, Wi-Fi is sufficient. You don't need in other words, you don't need a hard wired connection for the system to function, right? It's fine on a Wi-Fi, and it actually even works over a cellular connection. But, in the whole universe of things, right, we all understand that in terms of speed and bandwidth, that it's, cellular connectivity is at the bottom there, and then you've got Wi-Fi, which is robust and great, and then you got your hardwired Ethernet lines are ideal.
Okay. Anything else you would like to add regarding Ring Central?
Well, I guess at this point, I just maybe like to say that we, more directly related to my function here at Ring Central, we are making some great developments in our social media program, and we've been, recently recognized for some of our engagement with our fans. And so please follow us at Ring Central on Twitter, and we also have a Facebook page, Google+. We love engaging with the community. We talk a lot about business tips and, cloud computing in general, and then we also churn out a lot of, great customer stories that, people can relate to and have applicability to, their lives and their endeavors in business.
Wow. And again, they can reach out to Ring Central at...
They can reach out to, social media at ringcentral.com, or press at ringcentral.com. And of course, you can also tweet to us at Ring Central. We're very responsive, and we love getting feedback and interaction.
Perfect. Okay, so I know you can use Cisco phones. If you have an existing phone, there's certain phones that it will work with. You must have a IP phone, or is certain phones that's going to work with your system well?
Yeah, we are compatible with a large number of different phones, but the ones that we recommend in terms of the plug and play functionality are the ones that are featured on our website. They're Polycom and Cisco phones. So those are literally, you provision us online and then you just plug the phone in and it works. If you have a different type of IP phone, we can work with you to get those working with Ring Central. But, quite frankly, they're not quite as plug and play. But of course, we would do all our best to make it work or help you make it work.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on to the program and giving us the information. I know you guys have a 30-day free trial automatically for the service if they just want to go to the front page of the website. And also you have 800 numbers and as well. The last thing real quick, I think there's something the producer just handed me regarding your Also, your system works with the Box, Google Docs, and Dropbox. Can you talk about those three? How
Sure.
this system is integrated with those applications?
Yeah. So I mean, we really believe in the entire cloud ecosystem, and so we developed the ability for our customers to, for instance, you have a Box account, right, or a Google Docs account, and you can go into those accounts and directly fax or email or any of that from your Google Docs account using your RingCentral account. So say you have a PowerPoint presentation in your Box account, and your CEO says you need to fax it to me right away, or you have a contract that you signed and you need to fax that right away. Well, all you need to do is go into the app and access your Box account through that and fax using RingCentral, and it's all like 3 clicks total. And then you fax the document directly from Google Docs or Box.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for joining the program. I'm going to close with, I'm going to play one of your little commercials. And outside of that, they can just reach out to you at ringcentral.com.
Tim, thank you so much for having us on your show. We really appreciate it and love your story about RingCentral.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Here is a ad that RingCentral have on their account, so go ahead and play real quick and we'll close out the show. Thank you for listening to the Core Business Show. Take care.
Businesses today don't have time for maintenance, troubleshooting, or installing hardware that ties their phone system to one location. They need the flexibility to grow and connect all their offices and employees. Say goodbye to all the wires, the clumsiness, the complexity, and the huge expense of traditional phone systems. RingCentral is a complete business phone system that has all the features you need without the hassle and restrictions of hardware-based systems. With RingCentral, setup only takes minutes, not weeks. And phones arrive plug-and-ring ready. All you need is an internet connection. RingCentral is also the first and only cloud touch phone system, enabling setup, management, and access from touch devices. Say you have a new employee starting in the morning. You can add them to the phone system with just a few taps on your iPad. You can easily dial coworkers from your smartphone, or fax documents from other cloud services like Google or Dropbox. It's like having your business phone system with you everywhere. And with simple, all-inclusive pricing, you get everything you need for one low monthly cost. RingCentral. Phone systems reimagined.
Thank you for listening to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet. For a free quote on equipment leasing and financing, visit our website, applecapitalgroup.com. That's applecapitalgroup.com. And fill out the information to receive your free quote. We hope you'll join us for our next episode. And remember, you can always get to the core via iTunes. You'll find all our previous episodes there. Thanks again for listening to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet.